Welcome back, cats! Today we are tackling the most ridiculed spell schools in the entirety of Elden Ring, the Holy Damage spell schools. When doing this ranking, there were several things that stuck out to me that I haven't noticed beforehand, such as the fact that there is a huge power gap between the top two and the bottom two spell schools, which isn't the case with any other damage type. And while the latter half of the game is packed with enemies highly resistant to Holy, the DLC enemies are quite vulnerable to it. With the right build, however, even highly resistant enemies will learn to fear the smiting hand of faith-based Tarnished. The ranking method remains the same as it was for the previous two videos, and it will remain untouched for the penultimate video coming next, the strongest magic spell school. Check out the link in the description for the first video in this series, which explains the categories in depth. The final video in this series will be a bit different, since it concerns lightning damage, and we all know that the Dragon Cult incants are the only pure spell-based source of it. I have thus prepared something different for that occasion. Without further ado, let's begin with the ranking. Number 4. Spiral Incantations. The DLC Holy Spell School looks as unique as it is underwhelming. It houses 3 spells, 2 of which are basically variants of one another. Considering how late into the game we get these things, I was really disappointed with how arduous it is to melt anything while using them. Damage. 4 out of 10. Giant Golden Arc is not a terrible spell by any means. It is relatively pricey and slow-moving, but offers fairly decent DPS, all things considered. Spira, on the other hand, is easily the most disappointing incantation in this group. For its damage to be actually viable, its repeated bursts of damage would need to be at least twice as frequent. Utility. 2 out of 10. Golden Arcs is essentially a weaker version of Giant Golden Arc, but the interesting thing is that it's equally spammable while offering another advantage that Giant Golden Arc doesn't have. It actually deals some decent poise damage. Though it could never compete with a top-of-the-line physical magic, this is still very unexpected from a pure holy spell. RTS. 6 out of 10. The range of Spira is serviceable, whereas area coverage offered by Giant Golden Arc is actually quite strong. With repeated casting, you'll be able to melt swathes of enemies at great speed, though we'll find the incant less impressive against bosses. Cost. 9 out of 10. The average cost is 20.44 FP, with Spira ridiculously asking for 2 slots. Boosting. 6 out of 10. Indeed, this spell school does have its own seal, but it is one of the worst in the entire game, meaning you should under no circumstances power stance it. The Godfrey icon boosts both arc incantations, and that essentially concludes any potential damage boosts for this school. Average score, 5.28. This puts the Spiral Incantations into the dreadful F tier. Number 3. Miscellaneous Incantations. Light of Mikola, Watchful Spirit, and Multi-Layered Rings of Light are the 3 schoolless spells we are considering here. I have to admit that this group is actually surprisingly viable. These miscellaneous groups of spells always end up having a similar ranking as well. Damage. 7 out of 10. Multi-layered Rings of Light both blinds and blends. It has a surprisingly powerful initial burst of damage, followed by a modest amount of continuous follow-up damage, as the disc continues to spin. Light of Mikola's maximum damage output is something you will rarely get to experience, given how unlikely it is for an enemy to keep standing in the same place once the initial explosion happens. Utility. 2 out of 10. Watchful Spirit does have one lone advantage. Once you cast this incantation, you can just let it do its thing and wait for some additional damage to come trickling in whenever it does finally manage to hit anything. However, it is still easily one of the worst incants in the entire game because its damage and tracking suck, so this is nothing overly notable. RTS. 9 out of 10. The spell school is actually very strong in this category. Multi-layered Rings of Light has incredible reach, and will even expand when reaching its maximum range, earning it a solid 9. Light of Mikola would have netted a clean 10 here, but I do have to consider 2 spells for RTS, so I gave it an 8 in area coverage. Cost. 6 out of 10. The average cost is 36.88 FP, with Light of Mikola asking for 2 spell slots. Boosting, 6 out of 10. There is of course no viable seal which boosts these spells, with the sole exception of multi-layered Rings of Light, which gets boosted by the Dry Leaf seal. I cannot give full points here, only 2 out of 4, with Power Stancing being less than unlikely. This incant does also get a boost from the Godfrey icon. Watchful Spirit gets a boost from the Corded Rogue, whereas the Circlet of Light boosts Light of Nicola. Average score, 6.57. This puts the miscellaneous incantations into the C tier. Number 2. Golden Order incantations. Here, we see a huge jump in the overall quality of spells. The incantations of the Golden Order feel well-rounded and concrete in their application, even if some of its spells have questionable or overly specific utility. Damage, 7 out of 10. Discus of Light and Triple Rings of Light are essentially variations of the same spell. The only time you'll want to use the triple version is when aiming to clear a large group of enemies, given that Discus of Light is a top 3 spell in the game in terms of FP efficiency. Given the fact that both spells' projectiles travel back and forth, you should aim to always position yourself between them and your enemy as they retract. Utility, 6 out of 10. The utility of this spell school is unquestionable, the applicability of its spells less so. Immutable Shield offers a unique boost to any shield type. The elemental damage and status build-up your enemies dish out is severely lessened, with a unique benefit of being usable even on shields infused with an elemental affinity. Order's Blade is essentially Electrify armament, but for holy damage. Its utility is going to be quite variable due to enemy resistances. All of the other utility spells are extremely niche, and I find myself hardly ever using them. RTS, 9 out of 10. The sheer range of Discus of Light and the speed of its chain cast are amazing, whereas Radagon's Rings of Light covers a fairly large area, securing a very strong score for the Golden Order incantations. Cost, 9 out of 10. The fact that the average cost is only 21.44 FP is incredible given what the school offers. There are also no spells requiring several slots to equip. Boosting, 10 out of 10. The Golden Order seal is easily the finest Int Faith seal in the entire game, and does offer the highest possible scaling at 418. The fact that it's weightless only further encourages you to power stance it, given that it does also boost the Golden Order incantations by 10%, whereas the Dry Leaf seal offers a 15% boost to the 3 rings spells found here. Radagon's Rings of Light gets a boost from the Godfrey icon, and the Radiant Gold Mask does bolster all of the spells here. Average score, 8.14. This puts the Golden Order incantations into the S tier. Number 1. Earth Tree incantations. Taking the number 1 spot by a razor-thin margin are the Earth Tree incantations. At 19 incants, the sheer number of these is overwhelming, and it is truly difficult not to find something to like no matter what you're looking for. Damage, 8 out of 10. Black Blade is easily one of the stronger offensive incantations in the entire game, and the fact that its Destined Death effect stacks with that of the Black Knife is all the more reason to use it, preferably as a finisher of that combination. Both will lower enemy HP by 10%, but the Ash of War's effect will last 45 seconds, while Black Blade lasts only 15 seconds. Land of Shadow is one of those incantations that can feel both very strong and surprisingly weak, and sits in that awkward place of relative RNG and rule level dependence since it is a multi-hit incantation. Utility, 10 out of 10. I honestly wish the scale were higher on this one. I could simply put Golden Bow here and rest my case, but it is impossible not to touch on the rest. Whether you're looking for flat healing, healing over time, or protection against any and all elements, this school comes in all flavors. In fact, I would go as far as to say that this single spell school is the strongest utility powerhouse in the entire game, and that's accounting for both sorceries and incantations. RTS, 10 out of 10. Another exquisite quality of this school comes by way of range and tracking. Elden Stars, for all its apparent faults, does serve a role I've never heard anybody talk about. It has absolutely monstrous range and can serve as a solid sniper or long-distance opener. Land of Shadow, on the other hand, has some of the most aggressive and on-point tracking currently present in the game. The projectiles move fast, but not too fast so as to always overreach against a speedier target. Cost: 4 out of 10. If this school does have a fault, it comes by way of hefty costs. The average is 46.8 FP, with Black Blade, Elden Stars, and Minor Erdtree requiring 2 slots. Boosting: 8 out of 10. While the Erdtree seal does not give a percent-based boost to any incantations here, it has a unique benefit in being the absolute king of armament-based utility spells. It has the highest faith scaling of all other seals, and this is the only stat necessary to bring the seal to its utmost potential, which is a respectable 367. This means that the likes of Electrify Armament and Orber's Blade will be the strongest when cast on this seal. Additionally, any faith-based healing spells reach their maximum values. The Godfrey icon buffs Wrath of Gold, Wrath from Afar, and Aspect of the Crucible, Bloom, which does also get bolstered by the Crucible set, though I can't give a full 2 points here, being that its damage and bullet spread is truly sad. However, here comes the hidden gem of the Erdtree incantations: the Old Lord's Talisman. While it may not provide this school with any damage boost, it does something much greater. It enhances any healing over time, damage buff, or damage mitigation effect that comes by way of spells, and this school has them in spades. The mere fact that Golden Vow will now last considerably longer is reason enough to celebrate, but this is an effect that bleeds into every single category of this school in one way or another. Longer lasting spell effects mean less FP cost, more overall damage, more survivability. These are such massive advantages that I have added not 1, not 2, but 3 whole extra points to the boosting category as a direct result of this interaction. Average score: 8.28. This puts the Erdtree incantations into the S tier as well, and that marks the completion of another spell school ranking and tier list. Yippee! Get ready, the magic spell schools are next, followed by a mystery video regarding lightning. I'm curious what you guys will think of those rankings, being the most complex by far. And yeah, I'm gonna try to hurry the fuck up. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for waiting for me to finally step into this shit fully. No, it's just I've been a little swamped with work, and yeah, and then happy holidays. Yeah, that's the time of the year right now. Be well, cats.